I just want to say a quick little thank you. Ek wil net ons 302,000 lede bedank vir hulle ondersteuning. Sonder julle sou dit onmoontlik gewees het om die sake te doen. With that, I'm going to go on to introduce our complainant in this matter, who has approached AfriForum's private prosecution for assistance. This is Sergeant Lizzie Mojapelo. She is to my left over here. And then, as indicated earlier, Advocate Gary Nell, the head of the private prosecution unit here at AfriForum. He's going to be taking over and addressing you on this case that we've taken on. Mr. Nell, can we just move the mics?
Thank you very much, Barry. He's been with us for a month, but his Afrikaans have improved a lot. Thank you very much. Thanks, sir. In an earlier media briefing, we dealt with the failure of the criminal justice system to deal with child abuse matters. Last week, we dealt with the failure of the criminal justice system to adequately deal with gender-based violence issues. Today, we want to focus on one of the main reasons why we created the private prosecution unit, and that was to deal with selective prosecutions, especially those people that who think they're protected or they're sheltered from prosecution because of their political connections. The main topic of our discussion today will be the application for a Nolly Prosecute certificate by Sergeant Mojapelo to privately prosecute Ms. Vuyo Mtlakazi Manamela. But I'll get to that now. Allow me just a few minutes to express our concerns in what seems to be the deliberate and inept delay to finalize the investigation against another politician, and that's Minister Mbalula. We've registered a matter in 2019, and that matter is still under investigation. We have now done what we could. We've written letters, we've threatened people, we've implored people, we begged people to deal with the investigation, and have now decided, based on the President's public announcements, that he will deal with service delivery issues and that he would deal with corruption. We've now reported this matter to the presidential hotline. I'll make the letter available that we wrote to the President for his assistance to just see if we could deal with the investigation against Minister Mbalula. I'll just mention three things about this investigation. Now, the investigation against Mr. Mbalula started on the 9th of October 2017 when Monique Tata, our head of campaigns at AfriForum, reported to the public protector and requested to investigate allegations of corrupt activities against Mr. Mbalula. The public protector then, on Wednesday, 19 December 2018, released a report on her findings, and she then, in 2018, ordered the National Prosecuting Authority to investigate whether the funds used to pay for the trip were not the proceeds of money laundering. Nothing happened, and we then opened a case docket in August 2019. Complainant in that case docket is Monique Tata, our head of campaigns. Now, unbelievably and inexplicably, that matter is still under investigation. There's been no decision taken by the prosecuting authority. It's still being investigated, and nobody wants to take responsibility for the investigation. The National Prosecuting Authority refers us back to the police, and there's just nothing happening. The last issue I want to mention is we're dealing with allegations that are simple and uncomplicated in that particular matter. They entail that the minister received money that paid for his holiday. It's a single transaction with a travel agent without any complicated forensic analysis of financial records. So an inference we can draw is that people are sheltered from prosecution, especially if you're in the correct faction of the political landscape. But that is just a matter that I wanted to address. But back to our main business. Our main business today is, and just before I go on, I just want to make it clear that whatever I say here, those will be allegations. I'm not stating fact. We know that politicians threaten us that they'll sue, and we know how much money they have available to litigate. So please accept what we're saying here will be allegations made. So the allegation that we're making, and in fact it's Sergeant Lizzie Mojapelo making this allegation, is that she was assaulted by Ms. Manamela, the wife of Minister Manamela. She was on duty in full uniform at the house of the Manamelas, and she alleges that the assailant was not sober. At the time, she was 11 weeks pregnant. The assault happened in the presence of Minister Manamela. So what happened then is she was relieved of her duty by her superiors and her colleagues. They were quickly on the scene to relieve her of her duties, but refused to take her to a police station to open a complaint and or to a medical facility for a medical examination. And as luck would have it, she overheard a discussion between her colleagues discussing that they will not take her to the police station and they will not take her to a medical facility. But being a diligent police officer, she made contemporaneous entries into what the police would refer to as an occurrence book. So immediately after the incident, she made entries in the occurrence book. She was then taken to the control center where she made entries again about the assault. And not only that, as a diligent policeman, and police would understand this, she made entries in a pocketbook to record what happened to her immediately after the event. When she later succeeded to open a case docket, and that's again without the assistance of her colleagues, the medical examination then confirmed the injuries. Although Ms. Manamela appeared in court, she appeared in court, but the matter was later withdrawn by the prosecution. We refer to Sergeant Mojapelo as Lizzie, but she was then later approached to settle the matter out of court, but she refused. We were informed by Sergeant Mojapelo that the prosecutors explained to her that the prosecution of high-profile people on her evidence will be very difficult and in fact a waste of time. And that's why the matter was withdrawn. She was threatened that the suspects may open an extortion matter against her. But she's however confident, and we share her confidence, that the circumstantial evidence of who called who and when what happened would support her version. Now, as you all know and would realize now, is that this matter has similar features to other matters where politicians are allegedly involved, and that the police, instead of supporting our men and women in blue, that the system rather seek to protect politicians from being held accountable. On the evidence at hand, I believe that there's a strong case and that the National Prosecuting Authority should have prosecuted. We will however prosecute on behalf of Sergeant Mojapelo and or assist Sergeant Mojapelo as soon as the certificate noli prosecute is issued. So what's happening at the moment is that we've now submitted the application for a noli prosecute, and we have to then wait for the issuing of such a certificate. As soon as the certificate is issued, we will take the necessary steps to institute the prosecution and to make sure that the prosecution run.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nall. Colleagues, as just a word, Sergeant Mojapelo is not speaking to the media. She will not be taking any interviews, unfortunately. We're doing this. We're going to be speaking for her, so as not to prejudice the case, one, but also not to prejudice her employment. There are various regulations and rules related to police officers speaking to the media. Although we accept that she's a complainant in a criminal matter, we simply don't want to take any chances with potentially prejudicing her employment. So she won't be making any statements. We will be speaking on her behalf. If we can move now to questions, please, and if we can go in around, a couple of people ask you questions, and Mr. Nell will gladly answer them. Anyone? There.
Morning, Claudia from Newsroom Africa. Just for the layman, the issue of this certificate that you are applying for, could you just explain why it's important and how it works, and why it's necessary to apply for that before this matter can go forward? Why not just go and open a case?
The case was opened, and the case is being investigated. So a certificate entitles us to privately prosecute. Without a certificate, only the National Prosecuting Authority would be entitled to prosecute matters. So what the certificate really means is that the prosecution authority indicates that they've considered all the evidence and that they've decided not to prosecute. As soon as they decide not to prosecute, do we have a right to privately prosecute? If I say we, it's in fact the private prosecutor. The private prosecutor in this particular instance is Sergeant Mojapelo. So that's all it means. It's a certificate issued by the National Prosecuting Authority, and I think it's quite topical at the moment. We all know about the possible private prosecution of Advocate Willie Downer. So it's the exact same certificate that we applied for to be issued, but without that, as a Malawi, one would not be able to prosecute. Only a prosecutor can, a state prosecutor.
Thanks. Anybody else? Any questions? All covered. Go ahead, please, Tumali.
As a follow-up, so just for clarity, the alleged assault took place or was undertaken, for lack of a better word, by the spouse of Mr. Manamela, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if you've discussed with your client about her view in context of South Africa's problem with gender-based violence. I mean, this is a gender-on-gender kind of based violence, but it's still quite an unfortunate incident that she had to incur injuries of that nature. What is her view and her feeling about that in context of what's going on in South Africa in general, where women are bearing the brunt of senseless and very terrible violence? Now it seems against at the hands of women as well.
There are two issues there. Firstly is, we're talking about a policeman assaulted whilst in full uniform and conducting official duties. So that's the first thing. Now, even the Police Act deals with that. Police Act, in terms, I think, section 67 or so, indicates that it's a crime to involve yourself with a policeman and to interfere with a policeman conducting his or her duty. So that's the first thing. Second issue is, indeed, she had quite a journey to get here. I mean, this happened in February 2020. So February 2020, she opened the case. Firstly, there was a struggle to open the case without the assistance of her colleagues. Then there were the court appearances by the accused and the withdrawal of the matter. She then reported that to the NPA head office in Johannesburg. When she got no joy there, she appointed a private attorney to assist her. And if I'm correct, she then handed up at the Wits Law Clinic, am I right?
Yes.
At the Wits Law Clinic, referred her to AfriForum. And then she got to us. So it's quite a journey. It's not something that she decided on at the spur of the moment that I have to go somewhere. She's quite adamant. It happened to her. She wanted it addressed. And that caused the whole journey that she had to undertake to get to us.
Any further questions?
Same man.
Same. Please go ahead.
Just a follow-up. So since the matter, it seems, is involving Sergeant Mojapelo as well as the spouse of the Deputy Minister of Higher Education, how does he fit into the whole matter? I don't understand how his name is dragged into it if it's involving the spouse. If you could clarify that for us. Yeah, that would be
Okay. Firstly, the incident happened in his presence. The incident happened in his presence. We're saying, having a look at the evidence, that if it was Mr. Nell and Mr. Nell's wife, that person would have been in custody, in a prosecution, and have been convicted by now. So that's what we say. We're saying it happened in his presence, at his house, and not only that, he also played a role in phoning people, and I don't want to go into the facts, but he played a role on the night of the incident. It happened in his presence, and but in her own right, she's a politician and the deputy speaker of the Gauteng Parliament. Mariska.
Oh, thank you. This is the last one, I promise. Just I suppose an indirect, direct question to Sergeant Mujapelo. Isn't Sergeant Mujapelo afraid of being victimized, having come forward, having taken such a long journey and started to wage their struggle to get justice? As you've mentioned, very high-profile names that are involved. Isn't there a concern that she might be victimized, and how, as AfriForum, are you going to protect her and shield her from such victimization in her workplace?
Yes, she's concerned. She's got reason to be concerned. We're concerned, but we just follow the principles of the law, the letter of the law, and certainly she can rely on our support going further. She's just the complainant. In this matter, the mere fact that she's a policeman is just a career. But in this particular matter, she's a complainant that just wants justice done. And that's why she's here. I do think that she's very brave, because the concerns that you've raised, concerns that we have, but we've seen it now more and more over the last year, that women are just becoming more and more persistent in seeing and ensuring that justice is done. They're very brave, and we will certainly assist her for being brave.
Myne sluit eintlik aan by wat hy nou gevra het. Gary, het sy oor die afgelope 2 jaar ondervind dat sy dalk dreigemente kry, of dat mense in haar werksplek diskrimineer, omdat sy eintlik al 2 jaar probeer net om geregtigheid te kry? Hoe was dit oor die afgelope 2 jaar by die werk as 'n polisiebeampte met al hierdie wat gebeur?
Mariska, daar's 2 aangeleenthede. Sy was 11 weke swanger toe dit gebeur het. En daar was ook komplikasies met die swangerskap. En so dit op sigself was vir 'n baie groot struikelblok. En in haar dag tot dag loopbaan op die oomblik is dit vir haar 'n struikelblok, maar sy is baie dapper. En sy het besluit om hier deur te gaan. Uiteraard het ons met haar dit bespreek, want ons weet nou almal hoe dit gaan. Ons weet almal hoe vletjieblassers hanteer word deesdae. So, en dan is dit nie net 'n vletjieblaser nie, maar ook 'n klaagster in die polisie, en wat nie tevrede is met die manier waarop sy hanteer is in die polisie nie. So, Mariska, ons dink sy is baie dapper. Ons het dit met haar bespreek, en sy kan reken op ons ondersteuning.
Colleagues, if there's no more questions, anybody else? Tamali, you got one last?
Oh, I'm happy.
You're right. All right, and I think we'll wrap it up. Colleagues, thank you very much for honouring this invitation. We'll still be around for a couple of minutes afterwards if you want to grab one-on-ones. I know Eunice might want to grab something in Afrikaans from Mr. Nell, please. And if there's anything else, you can always just drop me a call. You can always send me an email. I'm available to assist you where I can. Thank you very much.